Welcome everybody to another blockchaingaming.com meetup at Decontrol. Just give everyone a quick rundown of the space who's not been here before. We are a kind of Bitcoin hacker space. We've been around for about 5 years now, over 5 years. We split the rent with our community, and the more members, the cheaper the rent. Kind of use this place for co-working projects, hosting meetups. We do a lot of education here, always free. It's very important to us. There's a lot of scammy stuff in the industry. There's a lot of bad behavior and lackluster education. So we're a lot of just long-term Bitcoin and crypto people that have just been kind of gathered here, and our all-day Bitcoin, all-day crypto. It's just kind of how it is. So we've been around 5 years, and one of the events we do here is I do blockchain gaming events with my friend here, Andrew. So I'm going to let him introduce us.
Yeah, so once a month we talk about blockchain-based video games. Early on, we kind of thought it was one of the first critical use cases for blockchain because of the ease of use of it in terms of applying it effectively and enforcing it. And there's a lot of games already coming out. People are making cool stuff with it already. So once a month we talk about it. This guy, met him in Seattle, Bellevue, whatever. Basically Seattle. We've been actually getting a lot of blockchain game developers from the general Cascadia region visiting us, actually, which is pretty cool. And this is the latest one. He's making a game called Orbiter 8, which he'll tell you all about it. But from what I've gathered, it looks like turn-based space MMO kind of thing. I love those. I used to play EVE Online. You can start correcting me now if I'm wrong.
No, you are on the right track.
Okay, cool. So turn-based space MMO. Did you play EVE Online?
I did. Well, I briefly played it, and I downloaded the demo. I spent maybe an hour and a half, and then I uninstalled it because I knew this was a rabbit hole I cannot go down.
Oh yeah, it would have eaten your life.
Yeah.
But that's the point, kind of.
Yeah.
But is that what you want, like an economic system,
An
players
ultra-light version of space trade, but casual.
What's the difference between casual and what you like? How do you make it casual?
Don't have to play like 18 hours a day to keep up.
Make sure this is picking you guys up.
I mean, that's kind of true in EVE. I mean, how so? What do you mean? Is it an idle game?
Idle game.
No. What makes it easy for a newcomer to catch up quickly?
You don't need to play. You don't necessarily want to play an enormous number of turns per day, but you want to check in regularly. Sort of, I feel sort of like the sim games. You've got to check up on your stuff and play on a regular basis, but you don't stay locked in for hours. Well, I mean, the gameplay it's going to be somewhat immersive, so it's hard to tell exactly how addictive.
I have a question. When you say turns, you describe this, or I read this game being described as fairly centralized. Like, you want the in-game interactions to be on-chain.
Yes, yes.
Officially?
And this is in the presentation, but all of the core gameplay will be on-chain. It's not. Many games use blockchains as a way to provide tokenization or something in a gaming experience that happens either in a local client or on a game server that's hosted. And all of the gameplay for Orbiter 8 will be self-contained in the contracts.
It's like Coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you start out? I want to make sure this mic's picks up when I talk because I'm super loud.
Excellent.
So yeah, I'll just point it right to you when you go.
All right.
Yeah, you want to hop on?
Yeah,
into
let's
the
do the thing.
Yeah, we can hang out here and criticize if we need to. Or...
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank Andrew for having me here. I had stumbled on to blockchaingaming.com and found out about the Facebook group, but it wasn't until I ran into you in person that I started to understand what the project and the space were really about. And I appreciate you having me here.
Oh yeah. And I made you go on stage. That was fun.
Yeah, well, that was great. I mean, that was a fun event.
This guy. Sorry.
All right, I got to log back in. How many people in here? I don't know what the first question would be. How many people in here have a wallet on their phone? Okay. How many people in here own some form of cryptocurrency?
Okay, nice.
Okay. And how many people have played some form of game DApp? Does anybody have a CryptoKitty? Crypto Kings? Okay. So it's kind of mixed. I feel like I'm actually talking to a pretty knowledgeable audience in general. So
Usually we don't get that ratio of people that have actually played blockchain games in the audience. Like I would say usually the ratio of people who have actually played like a game on chain in some way or another is like really low. So,
really low.
Yeah, it was pretty much higher than usual.
The breakout's still sort of
bullish,
happening. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to talk about a game project that I've been working on. This is not my job. This is my indie project. So it's sort of it moves at a slower pace, but it's something I'm very passionate about and I'm excited to share with you guys. So to start off, I'm going to tell you about Walter. Walter is not here. I'd hoped he'd be here. He lives, I think, less than 30 minutes from Vancouver, but he still was unable to make it tonight. I worked with Walter back in the early days of when the gaming scene was really exploding online, back in the days of Quake and Duke Nukem. Walter was really strong in the space as the guy who was designing logos and building websites for a lot of the really big companies. He worked for id Software, he worked for 3D Realms. And he recently sort of came back into the world and started doing design work again. And he had heard I was working on a game. He helped me out. He created the actual name. You guys might have noticed or not that Orbiter 8 sounds like obliterate. And that's sort of,
that's clever though.
Right, and that's the sort of clever influence that Walter keeps adding to it. So I've appreciated his input. I'm really sad that he couldn't make it here tonight. I was hoping we could meet some people. And then there's me. Some people call me Coda. It's a name I got to the Burning Man community that has sort of spilled over into the rest of the world. So you'll frequently hear me called Coda, but I go by Scott. Feel free to follow me on Twitter or send me email. I've been in the gaming industry pretty much most of my career in one way or another. At times I've worked directly on games. Other times I've worked on web related to games. Right now I work at a company called Card Kingdom. Does anybody in here play Magic the Gathering?
Not a long time.
Has anybody heard of Card Kingdom? It's like the biggest online reseller for Magic the Gathering cards. We buy used cards, grade them, resell them, and we make about $1 million a month doing that. So it's pretty good business. And it's relatable to crypto collectibles in a lot of ways, if you understand the card industry anyway. So my question is, have you guys ever played a game that kept you coming back? Has anybody played a game that they just got addicted to? I think everybody generally has. So for me, I guess in my early teenage years, one of those games was Trade Wars 2002. And Trade Wars 2002 is a game that actually heavily inspired EVE Online. A lot of the mechanics and the concepts that were laid down by Trade Wars showed up in a lot of other space MMO trader style games that came down the line. This was frequently considered sort of the grandpappy. It ran on bulletin board systems. It was fully text-based. You would buy a ship and you would fly around and you would trade. This screenshot, everything that you see would load at 2400 baud over a modem. Here you can pick up colonists or take colonists from a planet. The mechanic being that you could bring them to your own planet, put them on the planet, build a citadel, and they would start cranking out materials for you that you could fly away with and sell at a port nearby. Because overall it was a trading game, but it was also an empire building game. Moving around the world looked like this. Every space that you could move to had a number assigned to it. Any one space had adjacent spaces. They were called sectors, and you could just move from sector to sector in outer space and see what was in each sector. And all of this was important to me because of what it taught me. These were bulletin board system games. Has anybody in here ever logged on to a bulletin board system? Got a few. Does anybody in here who hasn't logged onto a bulletin board system know what one is? So back in the day before we got on the internet, we would use our modems to dial up to somebody's computer with a bank of modems that could handle a lot of incoming calls and run a piece of software, a platform called a bulletin board system on which other applications could run and be served to those people who logged in. This game was one of those applications that was probably the most popular game at the time before the internet came in and changed everything. So the things that I learned was how to use the modem that I had bought, the bulletin board system, so that I could get into this game and play with my friends who were talking about it at school. While I was on that bulletin board system, I learned about engaging this global mail network called AbuNet. It was based out of Abu Dhabi. As a high school kid living in the country, I was able to have conversations with people around the world for the first time in my life, which seems, not like a big deal anymore, but we didn't have the internet then, so it was a big deal. I also found this thing called shareware. I started downloading tools to write music, to do programming, and eventually started making my own indie games and releasing them as shareware. Has anybody here heard of shareware before? Understand? Yeah, the basic concept of shareware is you make a limited demo, you give it away for free, and if people like it, they can buy the bigger one. And the bulletin board systems, they were that distribution network. And the point that I'm trying to drive home here is that this addictive game drug me down this rabbit hole where I learned all about how to use a system. So when I think about Ethereum, I imagine that the thing that's going to really pull a lot of people across that threshold of learning how to use these things is going to be gaming. And for me, the gaming experience that I want to see on Ethereum is heavily inspired by the experience that I had for Trade Wars. One of those reasons is Ethereum is this worldwide, one single virtual machine, right? There's one instance of the Ethereum virtual machine. I can send transactions to anybody around the world through this one single system. What that also means is I can have one great big game world. So I don't know that there is an RPG of any kind that exists today or an online massively multiplayer game where every single person is operating in the same basic universe. That's just comes with Ethereum, so to speak. Everybody gets to play in the same game world. Blockchains also put transactions in orders, and we're talking about a turn-based game. So one of the things that a blockchain has to do is all of these transactions are incoming. We have to watch for double spend problems, make sure accounts are balanced correctly. So a core component is let's make sure all of these things are in an order where the mechanics work. It's baked into the system. It's the perfect thing for building a turn-based game on top of. It happens automatically. In Trade Wars, we didn't want people in the Trade Wars universe to be able to dominate other players by staying on the system, playing constantly, and just getting ahead. So the mechanic that the people who built Trade Wars put into it was a daily turn limit. And this could be adjusted for the bulletin board system. Usually it was around 2,000 turns per day. And this created a desire for people to log in and use up their daily turns when they had them. But then when they had run out of turns, they'd have to go do something else until the subsequent day, while other people were able to log in and catch up. And this throttling kept the universe at sort of a more syncopated pace so that everybody could play along. This happens naturally in Ethereum because there's a delay in your transaction speeds. You got to wait 13 seconds for your transaction to go through. You can only do so many transactions in the day. You cannot play this game fast if you wanted to, at least until they change Ethereum and suddenly transaction rates drop. And then it'll suddenly become a different game, I suppose. So in Ethereum, money is a solved problem. Ownership is a solved problem. Trading is a solved problem. And this is Trade Wars. So to own a thing and then to sell it to somebody else, Ethereum has all of that technology baked in. You turn it into a token and you sell it to somebody else, or you allow them to use their wallet to transfer it to somebody else. This is all infrastructure that doesn't have to be built to create a game that has basic trade in it. And there's this model, this thing that I like about Ethereum a lot. Is anybody in here familiar with Tron? And I believe Tron has no transaction fees. Is that correct?
You use Tron power. This is real. And you gain Tron power by having Tron, is my understanding.
Okay. And there's another network, I think, that also doesn't have transaction fees.
EOS does. Anything, any DPoS is garbage.
And my understanding is like a lot of the reason why people want to remove that transaction fee is they see it as this barrier to entry for other people. It's like, I don't want to have to pay to play this game. But I love the concept of paying for every turn, because that money that you're spending to pay for that turn is going to the miners who are running the network, who are supporting the network on which you are playing. To me, it's a micropayment system that's democratized to the people who are running your game server. And I feel like this sort of model, maybe not explicitly the way that Ethereum is doing it, but I feel like this sort of model is basically the future. And I'm leaning away from these ideas of no transaction fees. I feel like
it just lets people spam.
Yes.
Like they can just do as much as they want.
Yes.
And then you're going to store that data forever. Like,
absolutely.
If no one paid for it, it's like ridiculous.
There's no long-term viability there.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no way.
So this is why I still feel like Ethereum is the best platform right now to build on. So Trade Wars 2002 plus Ethereum.
Well, I knew the answer. Oh, I was going to guess that.
Wait. Care to guess? Yeah! Orbiter 8. You'll get a t-shirt. Also, I have some swag. I'll get to that whenever I'm done with the presentation. Hand some things out. The stickers came.
Hooray.
Yeah, we got a sticker shelf. You can throw them in if you don't want to bring them all home with you.
Oh, I'll throw some in there for sure.
Yeah.
So story time. All right, this is, I haven't like read this story out a lot, so you guys will have to bear with me. Please forgive me if I embarrass myself. It's the year 2140. I'm going to read all of these slides, by the way, so just settle in and enjoy this. All right. It is the year 2140, just a little more than a century after humans began off-world colonization, and civilization has spread to encompass the whole of the solar system. Expansion began with a brutal space race, and the first colonies on Mars had it rough. They lacked the technology, resources, and experience to adapt to the rapid and destructive changes in gravity and radiation that caused their bones to crumble and their muscles to weaken. But while the first generation suffered, the second and third adapted faster than even the most optimistic 21st century elder could have ever predicted. As soon as we found ways to exploit the natural resources available in space, we quickly expanded our colonies to Earth's own moon and the moons of Jupiter, and then Venus, and then the larger asteroids. As genetic engineering advanced to the stage where we could take control of our evolution and proactively create bodies that were better adapted to the harsh environments of space and the physical challenges of interplanetary travel, humanity was not just surviving in space, we were thriving. But as the initial surge of colonization faded into decades of vicious trade wars, progress slowed and then stalled. This time became known as the Great Regression, tied to this lingering feeling of regret that we couldn't quite articulate. Human expansion wouldn't burst again until the next great land rush of the early 2090s, when a new line of gravity assist ships known as orbiters opened up new trade routes to the outer worlds. Thanks to the orbiter ships, the human frontier pushed further outward, all the way to the edge of the solar system. But that was as far as we could go. Yet again, it seemed that another plateau was reached. We worried that a second regression was imminent, and that maybe we were just too fragile to expand past the barrier of our sun, which, after all, provides all of the energy that sustains every form of life we know. Leaving our planet was the tiniest of steps compared to leaving our sun. Once again, it seemed that there were no new worlds to explore and no new empires to build. That is no longer true today. In just the last few decades, we've seen rapid improvements in orbiter technology, drastically reducing travel times between planets. This technology recently crossed a whole new threshold with the successful interstellar test of the Orbiter 8 spacecraft. We are no longer confined to our solar system. The whole of the galaxy now awaits our arrival. The first interstellar Orbiter 8s are being assembled right now and will soon be on sale. Liberta Galactica. And thus begins the game.
Thank you. That's the first story time we've got. I really like it.
So the core gameplay, which I imagine is the thing most people are curious about, and it is right now also very malleable because I'm early in development. But basically, I want to be able to move around the galaxy by jumping from star to star. This is a core fundamental part of Trade Wars, and this is a core fundamental part of Orbiter 8. Creating a virtual world on the blockchain is difficult because you have to save that data on the blockchain. This was one of my first challenges, and a future part of this presentation is going to deep dive into how I solved that problem. So a couple of other points. You use your ship's cargo holds to buy and sell goods from spaceports. You can buy from one spaceport and go to another one that is selling at a lower price and go back and forth and try to make margins. You earn money, you upgrade your ship, you claim newfound worlds as your own, planets, moons. You build infrastructure on celestial bodies, produce those goods, and you build an empire. You set up defenses, or you go on the offense, and you battle for great profit. And those are the fundamental gameplay mechanics. So compared to other dApps, what makes Orbiter 8 maybe a little bit unique? So our non-fungible tokens, we're going to have ships and planets and spaceports and moons. I feel like these will probably be very traditional in their nature, as one would expect trading a crypto kitty or what are the crypto cuties and blockchain cuties and dozens and dozens. And you can even do baseball cards now. The tokens will be transferable outside of the game. I'm going to do my best to follow standards so that other platforms that are exchanges should work. You'll be able to see a ship's entire history. If you're familiar with blockchain gaming in general, that's sort of a commonality or any goods that you buy that are blockchain based, you get to see the entire history of what has happened to that item. If it's been in a battle, if it's won, if it's lost. Although in this case, if a ship loses in battle, it's gone forever. A lot of card games, a lot of blockchain card games, you play your game and you lose and there's no consequences. But in Orbit Raid, if you're flying around in a ship and somebody attacks you and you lose your ship, you take your escape pod home and you have to get a new ship at base level and start all over again.
Does that essentially mean that NFT is burned?
Yes, exactly. And I kind of was thinking about maybe keeping them around as a dead object that you could still trade, but you cannot play.
Send it to 0x.
Or just burn it. Just
0x000.
Yeah,
Just
just
send
kill
it.
it.
It can't be repaired at a shop or something, like take it to the.
If you're damaged, perhaps you can refill your shields or get more fighters, but once you're blowed up, you're blowed up.
Makes sense.
But then you get to get a new default base model ship for free. So that's kind of nice. So no extra fees or transaction, no master controls to generate assets. This one is a fuzzy point. A lot of other games are doing pre-sales to raise money to build their games. And I feel really weird about that. I feel weird asking people to pay me for this thing that I'm going to generate that I promise will have future value because of this thing that I'm going to build. And now I've taken money from somebody. So I've created a company that has taken money and I have to start filing and understanding. And there's a lot of consequence involved. And I feel like there's a lot of scams that happen that turn people off. And I don't know if a pre-sale is a great path to take. But I've also noticed that as I've talked about the game online, there's a certain part of the community that comes in and they want to know.
Where's the pre-sale?
Yeah, what are those assets? How do I get in early? How
I
do
call it an IJO, an initial JPEG offering.
Oh my God, that is so accurate.
It is.
Wow.
I bought it too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But yeah.
So does anybody in here like try to chase down these things for games that are launching and profit from? Is this valuable to anybody
I
here?
participated in a couple blockchain gaming ICOs.
Yeah, I did a couple pre-sales before, but mainly because of like there was only pre-sales. And
Right.
Just like everything is only hype. And
Are
there's,
you
like,
guys still doing it?
No.
Okay. It seems almost a little bit like just the crazy trader FOMO, got to get these things before everybody else energy. And I don't want to build on that. I want to build a fun game. And I want the assets to appreciate because people are playing and enjoying and they're growing their assets along the way. Anyway, thanks for the feedback on that. Also, the no master controls to generate assets is sort of like when I release this game, I would essentially like it to go live on its own without anyone being able to disrupt it.
Right.
The fully decentralized.
Yeah, an actual DApp.
Yes, absolutely.
Because any game that has an upgrade button, like, shouldn't really be called a DApp.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
Like, it's got an upgrade button. That means it's got a steal everything button. It's got a shut down.
We'll make another game later.
Yeah. Never like that. Most of them have it though. It's like the standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can understand that from any funded company's point of view,
Funded
needing to tell their
companies, the
investors
key.
about the level of control they have over the,
Yeah, funded company's the key. That's the nice thing to do it this way. It's just like, I want to build a real thing.
exactly. I appreciate that you call it real. I love that.
You gonna make a DAO out of it?
Am I?
Yeah.
So right now, the way that I believe that I will make money from this project is that I will be the first person playing. Therefore, I'll get to claim some of the most choice assets in the universe. And if the game is popular, then those assets should appreciate.
Sounds like a pre-mine.
A pre-mine it is, but I'm gonna have to go out there and earn it like anybody else. I
Yeah,
just
so,
get first land rush.
yeah, there's still a fair launch. Like this is the
Right.
time.
Right.
You're just gonna be right there, ready. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Totally. I don't know. Like
That's fair. As long as you're not just like loading it.
I reserve the right to script in a couple of items that I'm going to own if I want to do that later.
Yeah, that's all good.
But right now I'm leaning. I'm
As
leaning.
long as you don't give yourself the power to print more of them.
Exactly.
That's the key.
Exactly.
Right? So
And we'll be
everyone can see-
transparent.
Yeah, everyone can see what there is. Yeah.
All right. So everyone's in the same universe. Most massively player ever. I feel like not a lot of blockchain games are thinking about spatial dynamics. Some are. But if you imagine, say, what's that big card game that's like Magic? I can't remember.
Hearthstone.
No, the one that's on blockchain.
Gods Unchained.
Gods Unchained, right?
Yeah, it exists in a beta.
Yeah, and if you play Gods Unchained, you can play with anybody anywhere in the world, but you're still playing one-on-one with that person, so to speak. I don't know of a lot of games where you can like physically move here and see who's here. Hunter Coin?
Do you know Hunter Coin?
I remember one where you ran around and when you picked up coins, there was some sort of like proof of coin found thing going on.
Hunter Coin works in the same fashion as your game in that each turn is a block. It's your moves or transactions. It was a fully decentralized world.
Yeah.
But it was a different genre of game, not a space game.
It's like a first-person run-around puzzly thing.
Yeah, in their world, your location was basically an array, I guess. It was a two-dimensional
Okay. Yes.
game. So you had an X and Y coordinate.
Yes. And the X and Y is one of the most popular game grid mechanics for 2D. And I went with the distributed graph, which I'm about to dive into. So it's going to be a little bit different. Dig it?
It's a dag-dag.
It's a dag-dag. Okay, so with well-executed gameplay, it should be fun. And I hear that a lot of game daps are not. Timeline. So I have 4 major demos planned until I release or hit beta. The first one is the dynamic sector generation that I'm about to dive into. The second is the populate sector contents. And this means that every item that pops up in a sector that it has its own contracts, its own tokenization, and is represented by something real in the current demo. These things are all faked. And then the third demo is to actually introduce trade into the game. And the last demo will be to introduce battle. And then at that point, it should actually feel like a game. And I am trying to get there by the end of the year. I released the first demo in June of 2018 to Robstein. And I'm currently working on the second demo and hoping to get there. What did I say at the bottom there? Explain an upcoming slide. And there are 3 key systems that I'm working on for it. First one is going to be, there's a slide missing in there. No, let's not get to that slide yet. 3 key systems. Now that slide. Fully distributed, runs on the Ethereum virtual machine. This is the game DApp. The actual core gameplay will be on the blockchain. And then there's the game client. And that's what you use to connect to the DApp. And like many, many other dApps, that game client right now is just a JavaScript application. And it's also standalone. And then I'm going to create a portal. And if you go to CryptoKitties or something like it today, you'll find that there's a connection between their hosted server and the game that's running on the blockchain network that allows them to own assets, because while you own the digital CryptoKitty as far as the data, they maintain the copyright on the actual image that represents that CryptoKitty. And those assets are hosted on their web server. So I want to create that style of portal that supports the game, but it will be completely independent from the game. There won't be any connections that can't be severed. You will be able to play the game with the client as much as you want without ever visiting the portal. So the game DApp itself will be built on Solidity smart contracts, all on the blockchain, and it is the game. The game client is just an interface to it. The one that I'm building right now uses MetaMask or Opera. I also found out that it runs in the Engine wallet because they have a built-in web browser for dApps now. It's pretty slick. Played it on my tablet. It was kind of almost a good experience. I'm using Vue.js to render my game engine. Are there any devs in here, any programmers by chance? Okay, I won't dive too deep into that. SVGs are a scalable vector graphics format, and it turns out they're just text. So I can manipulate that text on the screen, and I don't need any external assets. This is part of what makes it easier for me to have a self-contained client that can be easily distributed on something like IPFS and not have to carry a whole bunch of really large files along with it for your graphics and whatnot. Somebody could come along, build a Unity or an Unreal client interface with amazing graphics that connects to the blockchain and plays the game and creates a more immersive experience in the future, no problem. Maybe I'll explore that. We could even have an ecosystem with many of them. And that's why this slide got slipped back up here. This is the game portal, supplement to the game experience. It's gonna host my copy of the client for people to most easily get to. Maybe you get it off of IPFS, but I'll have it at orbiter8.com so you can easily access it. I'm going to provide some extras, like maybe you can browse the map of the stars and the different solar systems. I can set up leaderboards and keep track of who's doing what and activity in the universe, and create streams just by reading it off of the blockchain. It's all going to be built on a Web 2.0 stack. This is where I'm strongest. I've been a Web 2.0 developer for a long time. I can create these applications much easier than I can write smart contracts. So I'm excited about seeing how I can support the project with that component. That is my technology stack for building it. Then the dynamic sector creation is sort of the innovative thing that I'm the most excited to tell people about right now. This is the first major problem that I've solved in the game. In Trade Wars, which was an 80s dial-up game, they used a directed graph to represent space. And moving in space meant moving from one node of that graph to the next. And the way that Trade Wars created their world, the operator of the BBS system, before anybody logged into the game, would run an event called the Big Bang. And it would generate automatically dynamically generate this entire universe based on whatever parameters they gave it and write it to the hard drive. And then anybody who logged in and played would be playing in that map. That's very difficult to do in Ethereum because if you generate a very large map and try to write it to the blockchain, it's going to be very expensive. So I decided to democratize that problem. This is what the interface looks like as you move. Whenever you first look at it, it's hard to get a visual concept of what the universe looks like. But the more you play the game, the more all these random numbers gets mapped in your head and you realize that it starts to mean something that looks something like this. So you'll see from H to C there's a dead end. And this is the kind of structure that would pop up a lot in maps. So if you wanted to build your empire, going to the back of a dead end sector to do it means there's only one way in and one way out to protect. And it's less likely that somebody cruising through is going to see your space. It's also a directed graph, which means you can move one way and maybe you can move the other, but not necessarily always both. So if you notice here, if you're hanging out at I and you go over to J and then B and then G and you're like, oh wait, I want to go back to B, you can't go straight back. You have to go to A and then D and then H and then J and back around again. So this directed graph universe actually ends up creating a map that has a lot of gameplay potential to it. You have to have strategy to know how you want to move about the world. And remember, every movement you make in this world, you'll be paying just a tiny fraction of Ethereum for. So you're going to be thinking about these moves quite a bit as you go along. So in Orbiter 8, instead of generating this whole giant world all at once, I'm dynamically generating it as people move through space. So if you imagine in step 1 here, the player is in that green circle and there are 3 adjacent sectors. So they are in the green sector and they want to move to a sector that nobody has ever been to before. So in step 2, they've moved to that new space, up 1, that nobody has been to before, and the system automatically generates 3 new adjacent sectors. Those sectors are written to the blockchain, and the cost of writing that goes to the player who moved into that space. So as you move out to the edges of the graph, you are generating new nodes that each have their own unique DNA, and the planet structure of that solar system will be based on the DNA that's randomly created for each of those nodes. And then in 4, you see that the player made a step back again to a previously visited node. Nothing gets generated, nothing gets created. So the user is only paying to change one integer on the blockchain, that is where they are in space. So that is a relatively cheap transaction. And then here at the last step, we see moving back again and creating new nodes. Does this kind of make sense?
I have a question.
Yeah.
With the directed graph thing, so like, why would you want it to be such that if I go from point A to point B, I cannot return directly from B to A? In the real space, that never happens.
Well, I mean, you are an orbiter assist craft. If you are sitting on a really large star, you're going to be able to get slung way out there in space. But if you ended up in a sector that has a tiny star, you might not be able to jump as far coming back at that level of gravity.
Because of the mechanics of our travel within.
Yes, that is the way to explain it in gameplay. I'm sorry, in game world terms. In gameplay terms, if you were just moving around in the space without any of it, you lose actually a lot of gameplay components that are really fun in how you build your
I just wanted a conceptual understanding of why I could go one way and not return.
Yeah, it's the size of the star. It's totally the size of the star.
Yeah, so they're like slingshotting us around, basically.
Yep. Orbiter assist jumps from star to star. And that is exactly the part that I've been building for the initial demo. So I guess I can show it now. I'm that far. Yeah, somebody clap or something. That'd be exciting. Yeah! Woo-hoo! Okay. Oh man, this is fun. All right. So what I'm going to load now is actually up on the web. This is the Robstein test that I released back last January. I have done some subsequent releases to do updates, but I had to, these are the wrong buttons. There we go.
I think it's showing this. Should we show his demo?
Oh, is that
It's not that
possible?
simple.
Oh, that's too
Here,
bad.
you guys just start.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So currently, 25 players have created accounts on the demo, and there are 140 solar systems. So people have moved about the universe enough to generate 140 solar systems. And I am currently in Sector 1, which is Alpha Sector. My name is Commander Bravish because whenever I created this MetaMask account, I was on the Brave browser and I thought Bravish was clever. Currently, we have neighbors that are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Those are the numbers for the sector. And this is the map of Sector 1. Here we have Earth. We have our spaceport. This would be one of the spaceports that you could fly to, dock. While you're there, you could see what they have for sale, what they're buying, do your trading. It would all be accessible through a menu that isn't built yet because that's not what this demo is about. I filled this sector with sprites that look a lot like what our solar system does. So we can jump over here to Mercury, maybe go check out Earth. And these are the SVG vector graphics that I've been working on for the client. I've spent a little bit of time trying to make it look pretty. Here are some of the extra effects that I've added, but I haven't spent much time optimizing it. I'm trying to focus right now a lot on the smart contracts and not let myself get sucked into making the graphics look pretty until I get closer to the end. So right now, this is my test interface. And the key thing that this demo does on the blockchain, none of this is blockchain interactive yet until we want to move. So you click on the sun right now to see the optional sectors that are adjacent to us that we could jump to. And if this represented and showed all of the different sectors that are around, we would see this heliopause that is our solar system here. I'm zooming back in. I had to turn the heliopause back on. So this is the edge of our solar system, right? So you could imagine like jumping to a new solar system and we click on, say, Sector 2. Let's go to Sector 2. So here's our MetaMask pop-up asking us to pay to send the command to move to Sector 2. In this case, it's going to cost us nothing, like this tiny little fraction of Ethereum, but this is Robstein, so I don't know how these prices will actually play out when I launch on the live network. But there's no additional fees here, so all you're paying is the transaction fee. Burn. So there's a bug where I don't always catch the call.
Robstein or Ricky?
Robstein. There's a bug where sometimes it doesn't catch the callback and doesn't know that the contract has gone through, but it usually does. So we'll wait the 15 more seconds and see if it knows that we moved.
I have a question, Miwa. So when you generate the solar system on
Yes.
your game, is it a directed graph too?
Inside the solar system, it is not. If you are in a sector or a solar system, oh, the transaction went through, but it didn't detect it. I'll give it another second. When you're in the solar system, you can interact with any of the objects in that solar system.
Right.
So you don't need to physically say move your ship from Earth to Mars.
It's all closed.
Yes. And if you click on Mars and you start interacting there, I was going to make your ship automatically fly over there,
Right.
but just on the screen and the graphics.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So, okay, but my question about the graph is that how can you guarantee that you can come back? Yes. Do you have any clever?
So it's a connected graph.
Right. Like, how do you know like it don't? Like,
Yeah,
it
it's stuck,
just
you know,
don't
there's
go
no
somewhere.
You get like 3 that are only one
Yes.
way, and
Yeah.
no one can ever come back from those 3.
Could you get caught in an infinite loop?
Yeah, or just like go one direction and like not be able to get back.
Right. Well, every node, every sector will have an exit
Okay.
of some kind. But you're right. I do need to watch for the condition that you might have some sort of loop
Yeah.
that is
The
inescapable.
real universe could fall that way.
It
Like,
probably does,
start-
actually.
Yeah, and the real universe starts.
Well, maybe I'll just leave that in there. You go the wrong way. And it's like, oh, sorry.
Sorry, assets are just
Yeah, you're just now stuck in some corner of space.
I've got it up on if I can actually screen share this, it'll look a little better.
Yeah.
Let's start me out from the very beginning. I've got my test teeth.
You got some test teeth
Let's,
on the URL at /dist.
Okay, we got a screen share.
Yeah. Oh, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna look good.
Yeah, you're trying to share application window.
I have a random question about the transaction fees.
Yes.
See, so since instead of generating the world all at once, it's generated as we explore it.
Correct.
And we have to, or at least the game does, someone has to incur transaction fees each time the map grows.
Yep. The person who makes the
The
move.
person who makes, that's what I was gonna ask. And
Yep.
I think that makes sense. It's kind of like being explored.
Right?
Exploring is
The
expensive.
cost of oh, and it will be rewarded in the game because when you go to that new sector, none of those planets are claimed.
Yeah. And otherwise, I would just spam the network by exploring too much.
But it costs you.
Yeah, it would.
Like you can if you want to spend the money, and all you've done is pay for it for everybody
It's
else.
like paying for the
Order
expedition.
what?
DIST. distribution.
DIST.
Nice.
That's my day-to-day name. Just to yeah, okay, where's that at one? Make me pay now.
So that's creating your avatar,
Okay, create a character.
and you can refresh, but it won't matter until it goes through.
I see.
I got.
Yeah, the joys of blockchain gaming. I know. I was like something to like diddle your mouse around on. Well, it's like
Don't say that.
you know, something to do your mouse around on. Well, it's like just when you're bored.
Yep.
So like when you move something, the screen happens.
Everything
Like
will have your
anything.
mission. Yeah.
Yeah,
If
it
you're
has to be
jumping
like
to a new planet, you'll see some stars.
Yeah.
Play with your ship.
Story.
Have some story. Possible.
26 players. It sounds like I was a player. So this is me.
Okay, so you are now in the other verse. You were nowhere. If you click on it, it'll select it, and if you click on it again, it'll pop up the menu, but you won't see it till you zoom in and out because that's broken.
It's okay.
Yeah, just keep clicking and zooming, and it'll all of a sudden pop up. There it goes.
Oh, good.
And that's why most people can't get into my demo right there.
Yeah, for sure,
That
dude.
one freaking bug.
Oh man, I feel it. So go to sector 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always one. Yeah, how's your gas cost at like have you looked to like
I don't know what it's going to be like in real terms on Rockstein.
I thought that's what the
It's
test
well
was
it's
for.
yeah.
if it's accurate, then it's like fractions of pennies per turn.
Wait,
Well yeah, that's, I don't know what way price it's paying though, right?
Right.
Is it paying like 0.01 or is it paying 1?
as a developer, you think you can't get an accurate read of your eventual fees from the testnet? You think in real life the fees incurred would be
It should be similar, but ETH testnets are just all broken. For all those who didn't know, yeah.
I'm
They don't even all act the same.
Like in a lot of ways, I'm just not concerned. I mean, it's whatever the fees have to be to make the transaction. They're going to change by the time I launch.
Well, scalability has killed
Yeah,
most
fees
purely decentralized blockchain games have been killed that way. Like
Yeah.
if you do chess, the checkmate, like trying to calculate a checkmate on chain, unsustainable, highly expensive.
Yeah.
If you can't even do that, anyway, you get my point.
Yeah. But there's no AI here. So, just calculate the actual. That's not even. This is more like a card game. This is the actual gameplay mechanics are probably closer to God's Unchained.
If you think I made it to sector 1.
Oh yeah.
Well, Gods Unchained is ownership only.
Click
There's
on the,
no on-chain other than ownership for Gods Unchained. The
Okay.
game's not on-chain at all. The game's just in the client.
Okay. Click on Minerva in the corner there,
It's Minerva,
and hit that little refresh button.
It's cute.
Commander Doge.
There we go.
Welcome to sector 1. Okay, now I see there's other planets around.
Claim
Yeah.
them, claim them.
I feel like they're probably already claimed. So if I want to travel here,
Jupiter, that's a good one.
oh, Earth. Okay, so I'm in this system.
Look familiar? And if you
Yeah.
hit the tilde in the corner, it'll give you a little bit fancier
This one?
graphics. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
But it's not optimized. You might run
Oh,
those.
so I have to like, whatever. Oh, I see. So these are moving currently.
Yeah. Zoom in on some of that. Yeah. Jump on it. Go. Let's look at it.
Virgos.
Oh, I
Like
see.
Mars. Let's go to Mars. If you want to go, if you want to get sprites easily, you can click the sprites tab in Minerva.
Oh, and they'll see all the ones that are around. There's a port on Earth. Oh, okay, I see. It's Jupiter. Mars is more interesting. Feel like you were hyping it.
Yeah. I think
Well,
we
there's not much going on there.
you're hyping Mars, and it seems it might just be a zoom in scenario.
Yeah.
So can I leave this sector now and go somewhere?
You can click on the sun.
The sun.
You'll be able to
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
layers in the same sector as you are.
Pardon?
Would you be able to tell if there are players in the same sector and track?
Definitely,
Yes.
right?
Right now, I don't have that, but that is going to be, and actually the next demo, you'll at least be able to see who else is in the sector with you. And there will be some limit to that because, if there are tens of thousands, it's a lot of data. So I'll probably limit it to like a random 100, up to 100 people
Better
that you can
question:
see.
could they prevent you from knowing that
Yeah.
they were in the sector? Like, what if I wanted a cloaking device?
I
On
Case
don't know.
notes,
So a
bro.
cloaking device is in Trade Wars, but I'm trying, like for MVP, I'm not sure.
Yeah, not very big. Look at like confidential transactions
Yeah,
and stuff.
maybe-
So, like,
maybe for
whatever happened
2.0.
underneath
a cloaking
CK
device has to have. Are there anonymity services on ETH similar to tumblers on Bitcoin?
Yeah, they all are terrible though. Not like that. You'd use like the confidentiality stuff, like a CK Snarks for ETH. Things like concept to confidential.
It'd be really cool if your
transactions.
cloaking device utilized a mixer or a tumbler or something.
That would be next level.
Yeah, you're far from that. Yeah.
I'm gonna go to sector 5.
It's hard.
So I'm making everyone wait.
Probably expensive. It would make it that.
Yeah, I'd have to do all that
The
work.
cost of stealth in your game would be high.
Which is appropriate.
Yeah, I guess
It
so.
should be. I mean, it's a fancy feature.
Alright, I'm gonna see how much this costs. 45,000 gas is not that bad for
Okay.
a regular game. Yeah, could be a lot worse.
Welcome to Sector 5.
5. Oh.
And you caught the call back that time.
Yeah, that's you gotta help me out with that for my own thing later. I'm in serious trouble for that. Okay, good.
And
Dude.
mine won't work with the Opera browser, and I can't figure out why Opera's not
Yeah, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
We have different issues.
there. So
Yeah.
this is actually,
Okay, so uncharted planet means I can yoink it.
you could if it was working. Yeah, right now that's what you can do. You can do nothing. That's
Oh, okay. That's okay.
This actual solar system was dynamically generated, unlike the core one looked like our solar system, right?
Yeah.
This one was random, and you can see here that I have problems with my random algorithm because my sun is huge, my planets are tiny, and one of the planets' orbit is smaller than the size of the sun.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
unusual.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, there's a little guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that one's on fire.
Yeah. It's just being spawned.
Yeah, so it's early. I've still got some bugs. And then I'm
Name
gonna
the planet when
see.
you discover it. When they're like recorded on chain, well, let's say Andrew's planet.
Or
You
will
will
it say
be able to-
whatever I want it to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to both track who generated it. Well, you can see who generated it if you know
Yeah.
how to look at the
If that
transaction
logs.
history. But I might go ahead and log that on the planet, and then there will be an ownership component. Somebody will own the planet, and then because people will be able to own it and trade it, you'll be able to determine that trade history as well. So there'll be discover credits, which will be permanent because
Kinda like
nobody else can
name it.
discover it. Yeah.
Sounds trivial.
Can I name it Dogeland?
Yes. Absolutely.
Very
Permanently.
Yes.
Okay, that's what just asking me
No,
important.
I
questions.
conquer it. I'm renaming it.
Yeah.
Is the name gonna be on the blockchain?
Yes. Yes. The name of the planet. will be
If they want to
recorded.
pay, just throw the data.
Yes.
Yeah, if they want to pay, don't make them because that can get expensive. It's good time.
Yeah, it'll be optional.
Yeah.
So I have the local build, but I don't know how it will run, and I'll see if I can pull that up. I have just a few more features on it than I did on.
All right, well, I'm gonna switch back to you then.
Okay.
I managed to set up a wallet pretty quickly. I got some funny words. I got broken girl and digital pizza as my. So I did.
Cargo. Cargo. Oh, you're right.
I
Yeah.
did pull those.
Safely.
Yeah, I did. I just made a wallet, so I got digital pizza and broken girl and chimney reunion. Yeah,
Are they hacking you on the internet right
I
now?
just got hacked for all the Rob Sneath I
This
just got.
is the word. Oh, right. It's just Russian.
Oh, I've got a build error. I can't. I'm sorry. I pulled new code earlier and I can't show it.
That's what you get.
Yeah. So this is what I've got to show.
That's okay. Honestly, it's more than most common, and it's nice to see you having pre-sales before this, and that your how your ethical stance on pre-sales are.
It
I
seems so
appreciate it.
weird to have a more developed product than what other people are already collecting money on.
I have been collecting money on for quite some time.
In gaming, that's easier to do. Again, like if you were trying to real estate blockchain, you need smart locks and things now. That's
My problem with the pre-sales is you have to give them the best stuff, right? Because they bought in early.
right.
And now your entire future scaling is either based around screwing over your early player base like Etherbots did,
That's a
Or
very
like-
valid
or
point.
just wrecking your game. So like the guys, the one thing with the Gods Unchained team, like they had no idea what they were doing when they started with blockchain. Like they did Etherbots first, and like it's been kind of touted as a success. But like realistically, they had no idea what they were doing. Like way too much ERC 721 mutability happening on every transaction. Like they'd write to 4 tokens for for each transaction. It was like hundreds of thousands of gas, like non-optimized. Yeah, it was so brutal. And that game was fun, but it like died off for various reasons. They got some cool mechanics that were good ideas, but like they weren't able to deliver on it. But so that's why they went with like ownership is the aspect of Gods Unchained, and it's just ownership only. So I'm always like wanting to see more games that actually like wouldn't work without a blockchain, because if you take a lot of the games, like you take the blockchain out of a lot of the games that exist, there's still a game completely.
Right.
And there's like no reason, there's blockchain's not a limiting factor, it's not a helping factor. Like, so in your game, it's like you're limited by how much you're willing to spend and like how much things cost at the time on chain. And it becomes a limiting factor to world expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like if the game was free, then everyone could just click to expand the world.
Exactly.
Right? So you actually have like the mechanic needs to be there and it serves something. So
Yeah, all of the mechanics are tied to the way that the blockchain works.
yeah, I really appreciate
And
that.
expressed in game.
There's a lot of bad stuff out there. So doing like this, we kind of cover a lot of the stuff around.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff is like really like you take the blockchain away, there's still a game. Yeah.
Oh,
Good stuff.
thank you. I should show like the last slide on how to find things.
Very important.
That it? Yeah, there it is. If anybody wants to hit the website.
The website is orbiter8.com and the Twitter is orbiter8game.
And the hashtag is Liberta Galactica. It's Latin for Liberate the Galaxy. Sort of a play off of Manifest Destiny. This is like corporations are taking over space. Liberate the galaxy.
Here we go again.
Here we go. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, awesome.
Does anybody have questions to throw at me of any kind? I don't know. You might have.
So many questions.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Let's
Can I
give
sit for this part?
Yeah, sit down. Yeah, here. Why don't you scooch over that way? And I'm gonna like point this at us a little better, maybe. This has not really been picking up that well. I don't think. Well, it's picking up you all. It was picking up you well. It seems pretty directional, and I'm loud, so I'll go furthest away.
Actually, you have to feel like this microphone is tricky, but like
Yeah, we just got it.
Is the better one.
Really? Yeah, we just got this one.
Because the
Oh yeah, sometimes it has to come in now.
around. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, man. It feels like it works to me.
I think you need to come in here.
Yeah, I'm really loud, so I'm good.
Okay.
Now the picture. Yeah. All right. First question.
Yeah. So random. How are you gonna do your? Are you gonna use commit review for
Am
random?
I going to use?
Commit review better.
I'm not that familiar with it. I've been using nonce and starting there. And then I dug around and I found a lot of blog posts on how to best generate a random number on Ethereum. And it sounds like it's difficult to come up with something truly random. A lot of my cases, it's not that bad if somebody's able to somewhat predict. But in other cases, it obviously is. So I would say that I have not necessarily solved the random number problem. My intention was, I have a temporary algorithm, was to go back and swap it out for whatever is considered, the best practices algorithm in the time.
Yeah, I don't think there is a best practices one yet. I saw one clever one was you use the address sender, so that way they have to use their address as one of the seeds,
That
and then
helps.
just previous block hash.
Yeah.
And then they've got 15 seconds to decide, like, I mean, technically they could still not send the transaction, but then they still have to hope it gets in right away, and there's still a bit of variance, even if they can kind of do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much. Yeah, random on Ethereum is.
It's trickery.
I really think they should have just built it in, right? Like,
Well, that's gonna be Beacon Chain. Beacon Chain is gonna be essentially a random number generator, right?
What
It's
is
literally
Beacon
what it is.
Chain.
Beacon chain.
Yeah.
That's the chain that links the old Ethereum chain to the new sharding chain.
Yeah, that's in the future. That's like
Yeah,
1
right.
year away.
Oh,
or
man, I'm
something
so
like
bitter
that.
about it.
Don't worry.
It's coming.
But I have a blog post on it if you want like good one. I wrote
Yeah.
one for CryptoKitties, like the random thing, and like we just commit review, but it requires 2 transactions. Then you
Yeah,
can,
yeah, commit reveal. Yeah, that's what everyone else does.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so as long as you have 2
Yeah.
transactions, they can't mess with it, but it's like then it's 2
Yeah.
transactions.
I would be
Yeah.
very interested in reading your blog post.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll send you.
Yeah, please do.
I have some questions.
Yeah.
So far, the flaw in every fully decentralized game so far has been related to artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Like AI playing the game?
Yeah.
Combination, mostly, yeah. Whether or not some of them tried proof of play and the AI won twice in a row, 51% attack. Or in Hunter Coin, it was simply the fact that it's human mineable. And yours is too. Playing can earn for you.
Yes.
And that's a human mining concept. So, and even if you limit turns per person, I'll make 10 accounts.
Right.
And times 10 how can you stop me from doing that? You know, I mentioned the centralized Turing test concept at the last panel, but we are decades from that probably.
Right.
Not decades, but a while. How are you going to stop that for now? Or like,
How do you stop bots from being better than the players?
especially when you have limited turns.
Yeah. This may not be an easily solved problem. My approach is to try to solve it in gameplay as much as I can, to make it where it's difficult for it to be advantageous to automate by making components of the gameplay difficult to automate, things that you would want to make a strategic human decision for, right? If you were to automate chess right now, it'd be pretty easy because there's a lot of chess algorithms out there. But if somebody were to come up with a new game like chess and you wanted to try to automate a bot, it would be pretty difficult because the game mechanics are challenging to beat a human at.
That's the mechanism HunterCoin went with as well. Although they found that in their attempt to do that, it limited. They had to, because they needed to design their gameplay in a way that botting was ineffective against the game. That constricted their gameplay designing opportunities and narrowed down the developer's ability to create the kind of game they wanted in certain directions. That's a big concern of mine, I guess. Though I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we can walk through just a little bit and kind of talk about what it would be like to try to create a bot in the game world, right? Like if you were to start, if you want your bot to profit,
What's the account creation process like?
it's you just create your avatar name and you're done. It's attached to your address. You can only have one avatar, and your avatar is attached to your address. If you have more addresses, you can have more avatars, but for any given address, you have one avatar that's you. But that avatar could own multiple ships.
Interesting.
You can only navigate the ship that you are on. You can only move from ship to ship if those two ships are inside the same sector. You can only sell a ship that you are not on. So you cannot sell the ship that you are currently in, and you cannot board a ship that is not in your sector.
So how would you buy a ship, or how would you?
You'll get a ship initially automatically when you start. There will be ports where you can purchase another starter ship for some consistent cost, but there will only be one ship in the game, one ship type. And Trade Wars, there was a whole variety, and I would love to do a variety of ships, but it's a lot of complexity to add to it really quickly. So I'm trying to keep it just simplified as much as I can for my first blockchain game. However, your ships, as you play it, you'll be able to upgrade the cargo holds, shields, fighters, and other stats on it. And the intention is for it to be very time consuming to be able to upgrade your ship so that there's a long ramp up time to kind of make it such that any resource in the game that is truly valuable is only valuable because people spent time and literally money building that resource up to get there. I don't want to just generate some asset that has this enormous value out of nowhere in the game world.
So, in that sense, would discovering planets or sectors be also sort of something valuable somehow?
Be something that is
Valuable. I don't know, something that you can trade or you can sell.
you could claim those planets. If there's nothing on that planet,
what do you get out of that?
well, first you as a planet, not much. But if you own a planet, now you can fly back to Earth and you can get some colonists, and you can fly back to your planet and you can put them on the planet, and they will start to produce resources based on whatever that planet is. Maybe they're producing organics, maybe they're producing equipment, and then you can land there at any given time and pick up what they produced and go to a spaceport and sell it and profit. So now instead of having to buy and sell to get your margins, you have your colonists constantly producing on your planet. Somebody might want to come in and just take your shit, so you'll have to set up some sort of defensive perimeter, which will also cost you money. So you may lay mines in the sector so that anybody who comes into that sector, those mines automatically attack those people before they are even aware that you have a planet there. So there will be layers to your defenses, and you can build out your empire in the world. And all of those planets that you own are producing things that you can go and make money with. Did that answer the question?
Sort of.
Okay.
So, using on top of that is, What if there are two players in the same sector and they move at the same time to the same place? Who takes the ownership of the sector?
So on the blockchain, that can't happen because the blockchain automatically puts every transaction in order, right? Like if you spend to two people from one account, you would overdraft that account. So fundamentally on the blockchain, one transaction has to happen before the other. So if lots of players make moves on the same block, the network is going to decide what order those transactions happen in. And at some point in time, different parts of the blockchain that are trying to put together the next block might have different ideas of what that order is, but ultimately one block is going to be the block that
So
everybody
whoever
builds
arrives
consensus
first,
on.
even if two move at the
Yes.
same time?
Yep.
Higher fee, probably.
Yeah, and then you can get your
Yes.
price, gas auction fees, or something that's very common in exchanges.
Yep.
So that's something that somehow you intend to prevent, or
No, I kind of like to let the network deal with that. I feel like that's the problems inherent with that are problems inherent with the network. And I'm trying to make the game sort of play along with the way that the network works. So if somebody wants to spend the extra money to get in there ahead of time, I want to make that a gameplay mechanic rather than try to fight against it.
so they're kind of burning more fuel to get there faster.
Yes, precisely.
I just realized another question brought on by his question. When you were talking about the value of a discovery, analogously, if we play Civilization, part of the value of discovering a piece of land is just my knowledge that it's there. But the difference in Civ is Fog of War. When I discover a new continent, you don't. I have it, but that's not the same on the blockchain.
Everybody can see the blockchain at any given
Have you
time.
put thought into Fog of War implementation?
You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, because you have to store every sector that you have visited yourself.
I mean, it's been discussed by other decentralized
Yeah.
game makers, but no one's figured it out yet.
Yeah, I had thought about it and decided not to pursue it yet.
Yeah,
Not for this game.
There's a lot of yets in the blockchain world.
So when I was a teenager and I was making shareware for bulletin board systems, and I went off to my first year at college, somebody introduced me to this thing called Mosaic, and said there was this other thing called Netscape, which was better, and introduced me to this World Wide Web. And for the next 5 years of my life, everybody was energized about all the possibilities of things we could build, and people were exploring everything they possibly could. And it was the most exciting time in both the internet and gaming that I had experienced throughout any part of my life since, until now, that we have this new platform and a new paradigm. And suddenly everybody's like, holy crap, we can build new and different things, but we still really don't know what or how or what works or what the new paradigms are. This is that opportunity for a renaissance yet again. And it's not just an opportunity, it is happening. Like, people are inspired, people are building, people are being creative. And that wave of innovation is going to be coming around the corner.
Yeah, it's tricky because it's just so monetary based on its like core.
Mm-hmm.
That it just ends up being a lot of like the game is the money and the money is the game.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
Or just like not even for gaming wise, just the industry wise. It's like we're just like a niche part of this like thing, right? And like the problem is that like it's really monetary focused, so it gets like the good stuff falls through the cracks very easily.
But money is not the thing that is corrupt. But money is a thing where we express our corruption quite frequently.
Corruptible.
It is very corruptible. And I think that when it comes, like, people who play a lot of competitive games now are finally at a place where if they're good enough, they can make a living playing that game. And that's kind of neat. That's a whole different kind of society than we've ever imagined before. But potentially somebody playing Orbiter 8 who is good could be building up assets that have value and earning money if the economics work out. And perhaps it's not Orbiter 8, but certainly people are making money playing some of the games. And there's potential to create games where, say, your top 10, 20% of players are earning something from doing that. And that's a kind of gaming experience we haven't really had before.
And I'd argue it's easier to access the money-making experience. Like in Dota, for example, only the people who are on Dota teams are making money from playing Dota. No matter how good I am at Dota, if I'm playing at home on my laptop, on a random server, I make nothing.
No
Your
shit
game-
posts on Twitch.
Okay, but I could do that, but you know what I mean. Here, everyone makes exactly as much money as how good they were at the game.
Yes.
Whereas there's more haves and have-nots situations in other games when that happens.
I have a question for you. So how do you think about the botters and the other part, like the people who lose money to games? In a way?
Botters?
Yeah, the people who run bots, right? Because like you're saying, like the concept of the players,
Well,
it's really cool, but we have so much from running now.
And I did a whole presentation on AI in decentralized games, which I view as the current crucial flaw holding people like him back, basically. The moment he launches this, some clever botter is going to be like, oh, I'm going to mine the shit out of your game. And he's going to design an AI with which to do so. That he's like, Tim, stop it now, time out.
I'm researching to that thing.
You're probably did you play Hunter Coin too?
It was him all along.
It was you, wasn't
It
it?
just arrived. It just arrived.
Can I throw out a thing about order? In this scenario, right, where people are throwing their bots in the game, those bots have to explore space to play, right? So they're paying to grow
True.
this galaxy. And the interesting thing about space in the game is that it can be expanded indefinitely, right? So say that this bot has tapped out all of the ports in this area and gained all of the money that can be gained. If you go to the edge and you pop open another couple of sectors, you've now increased the size of space, more places to explore, more places to get resources. And because that can happen infinitely,
That means if you can profit from exploration without interaction with other players, bots will immediately explore your whole universe.
but there's no end of the universe. So what's going to happen in the long
It's going
run?
to be huge. They're going to
Just explode the watching.
wait. No, I'm talking physics. Our universe may or may not be finite, but yours is not.
It is not. It will eventually crash.
Okay.
Yeah. At some point, there will be a
There is
limit to the
3.0.
number of sectors, which is really it's like a 256-bit int.
Yeah, it's not gonna.
So it's a really, but technically, there
Wait, you
would be a
designed it to crash.
No. He does the universe kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it just eventually, theoretically, you would explore and the universe would get big enough that the next sector isn't addressable because the integer is not large enough.
Oh,
That is the
But
limit.
that's not. Yeah, that's not.
as a
not,
physics dropout, I love this.
It'll only get too big for it to be humanly explorable.
Right.
Bot then, right?
And the hope is that, and I don't know this until I try to execute, but the hope is that the size will just sort of naturally fit the number of players. Because as people start to get crowded, they'll leave the crowds and push out. And even though like Sector 1, Alpha Sector, starts as the center of the known galaxy, there's no reason why somebody can't build up the same amount of infrastructure thousands of sectors away and create an area that's just as robust as where you started. And there's also no reason why you can't have lots and lots of these places that are built up. And as long as it can keep expanding, my feeling is there will be some people who want to go out and explore the edges, but most of the gameplay is going to be sort of here where people are. But if it gets too crowded, I'm going to move a little bit away, and that I'm just hoping that I reach a natural balance.
So other than transaction fees, is there any like cost to play anywhere?
I have gone back and forth on limiting turns through fuel in the ships. And it would be slightly more complicated because each jump would use up some of that fuel. And I don't know if it's necessary. If it's not necessary, I don't want to complicate things more than I need to.
And the idea behind making a cost is you can give that back to people. Like if they have to pay also money to the game.
So
to create
right
the
now,
planets.
yeah, right now I'm
That
none of
money
the
could
game
be-
is going to any of the contracts.
Okay, so
the
all the money's transaction fees.
Exactly. I will have an in-game currency, which will probably be an ERC20 token, which I think would be fun if I could find a pre-existing token that I can somehow use, but I don't know if that's possible. And that will be generated by what I call NPCs. It occurred to me that smart contracts
Non-player
are
characters?
sort of like non-player characters in a way. They're like, you walk up to a non-player character, there's a menu, you interact, and it does a thing in a game. And a contract, you might say, I'm going to buy, I'm going to sell, it maintains a balance. It's a lot like an NPC. So I create a variety of NPC contracts and then populate them in spaceports around the universe at random. And these are people you can go interact with. trade.
Nice.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, and what if I build a spaceport, like for example, instead of exploring and finding them, what if I build my own moon?
You can even build your own planet with a Genesis torpedo. Although that is also one of those features that may not make
But
it.
doing so would affect your directed graph, right? I would be building a new node on the graph.
No, you would not get to create a new node. The node is a solar
So
system.
I can't build a star.
You cannot build a star.
Or rats.
Yes.
So is there any way? How do players get money back out, or is it just like transaction fees? Is there money out other than the in-game currency? Like, is there any way to get ETH back from other players?
There's not a way to get ETH back
Okay.
out of the game.
So
Correct.
using it as like a limiting factor.
Yes.
And
The only way to profit would be in this design to take your assets that you've created value and then go sell them on an exchange somewhere.
Okay, so yeah.
But if you have your in-game currency, that could potentially be mined and sold and exchanges outside of it.
Yes. Yes. The currency itself might also have a value on it. Well, it should have a value also on the exchanges. I don't know if it'll be mineable outside of the game world. My intention is that the money will enter the game world through the before mentioned NPCs. So say somebody who works at the spaceport to do trade, the NPC, will have a balance and it will slowly be increasing. That will be just the way the money enters the game is I just give it to this NPC. And then as players do the trading, they collect that money from the NPC and it goes into the game world. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, wait.
How are the assets generated then?
Which assets?
Whatever you're gonna sell.
They are, so some of those assets will be generated the same way. So that salesman at the spaceport will have this much equipments and this much organics. And these will naturally increase over time just to keep the universe stocked. But then if you build production facilities, you can start to produce these yourselves as well.
Okay, so there's a chance then that the bots will come and swipe off all the items.
Yep, and so-
and basically everywhere we go, everything's empty because.
Yep, and then as time passes, those spaceports will fill back up. And then maybe they sweep through and clear them out again. But as space gets infinite, they could, how far are they going to go? And it would really take, at some point, it's going to make less sense to just, have your one bot doing stuff all the time. And you're going to have to initialize lots and lots and lots of bots for it to start to be profitable because one bot can only move through space so fast and do so much.
Yeah, they'll make $1 million.
It would still cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Theory
But you could potentially go and buy everything from the station and set up a shop, right, size it and sell everything twice the price.
So like what happened on the exchange, the decentralized exchanges. It was like that's the best for the auto front running.
Yeah.
IDEX, whatever.
On the subject of NPCs, so in a decentralized game, you said, and I would think, an NPC is made of smart contracts. It has to react with you in a trustless manner. That's
Yes.
just a thing in the game. And I just realized, if I build a planet, you said I can't make a star, so I'll keep it small, and I put a port on the planet, it will now be populated with port operators. Won't I create an NPC? That require me as the player to add a smart contract to your DApp.
Nope. It'll be like spawning a token, right? Like you breed 2 CryptoKitties, you get a CryptoKitty.
So there's reacted code for how an NPC of that nature should think. Or
Yes. And get
they're
generated.
not that unique.
No, they're not that
That's okay.
smart either. They won't do a whole
Well,
lot.
that's fair at this stage of the game.
Right.
So it's like,
Zug zug.
I don't want to do it. Okay. All the classics. Yeah, a couple more if anyone's got any. Stare at you.
I just was thinking like the idea of the smart contracts as something you can put on the game. I thought about that before. I think it's really cool too if you can somehow put that in.
Like allow players
allow-
to deploy their
yeah,
own
yes.
within minutes. Yeah, yeah.
That's like the one thing of blockchain. Like I'm kind of sad no one did it. Like
So-
in a successful way, it's so cool.
At a high level, I can kind of see how it would work and I get really excited. But at my current level of adeptitude at Solidity, I don't know how to build it right yet, but I know it can be done. Like it seems like it totally and I'm really excited about that idea, right? Like instead of just playing the game or just trying to write bots to be, manipulative, part of the game is writing your own smart contract that
Yeah.
interacts with the game.
I
Yeah.
think that's cool. It's kind of like, let's give up. Like, there's no way to ban bots, right, from blockchain. Like,
Yeah.
just, you make your own.
And especially if the way that your contract that you've written for this game interacts is such that a player who interacts in the world gets to experience your contract somehow, that's going to get fun.
Yeah.
That could be really cool.
Yeah, I think a good way to get next level of people learning, because it's like becomes like this thing of like, oh, I just need to modify this and this. Like, oh, I did it. Like, it's that easy to deploy on Ethereum. I should do an ICO.
And I don't know totally.
That's literally everyone's story. It's like, wow, that was easy.
Every day I'm like, maybe I should ICO.
That ship has sailed, man. It's IJOs now.
Yeah,
It's IJOs all the way.
but that quarter coin is like
That was a
STO.
cool story you shared.
STO, yeah.
Well, it begs. It's really interesting because it shows not just for blockchain gaming, but the SEC has increased its open-mindedness
Mhm.
recently, which is good for us and interesting politically, but especially pretty telling that a blockchain game was one of the first few projects that they were like, okay, it has enough
it's just
utility.
a game.
Yeah, it's basically a stable coin.
Well, it's not
right?
just that.
It's like a stable coin for a quarter instead of $1.
Regulators expect a utility token to have utility now. You can't be like, in 10 years, this will be redeemable for solar electricity. Like, no. And because games, you can make a game, you can demo it now,
Mhm.
whereas some of them are speaking of theoretical technology that doesn't exist yet. The utility part is more readily available. And that shows it as a first mover and a low-hanging fruit, so to speak. It's easier. Basically, they'll finish first. The people trying to make utility tokens out of video games will finish first and accomplish it, or people doing cars and real estate will finish.
And you're going to have more people interested in trying your product because it's less scary.
And gamers are open-minded technologically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nerds.
But yeah, it was a good story you shared. Thank you.
Yeah.
You post this on our Facebook chat room.
Oh, nice.
Blockchain gaming.
I'm a contributor.
Yeah. Cool guy.
Valuable contributor.
Just any other questions?
All right. Well, yeah, then thank you everyone who watched or who's watching this later. Thank you to our audience who showed up in person. Thank you to our guests in Order 8.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I
It's
kind of
great to
just
be
paused
here.
there, right?
Right, no.
Yeah, I dropped the ball on that one. All right, okay, we're going to hit the stop button. Bye, everybody. Say this.